American poet John Hollander says, "We speak of memorizing as getting something by heart, which really means by head. But getting a poem or prose passage truly by heart implies getting it by mind and memory and understanding and delight." Our first student in round 3, Sarah, says mastering memorization is best achieved for her by repeating the pieces aloud over and over, hearing the poem in her own voice. She has one more poem to share with her final recitation, Sarah Ashbaugh.
More Wise by Karen Gottschall. Sometimes I say I'm going to meet my sister at the cafe, even though I have no sister, just because it's such a beautiful thing to say. I've always thought so, ever since I read a novel in which 2 sisters were constantly meeting in cafes. Today, for example, I walked alone on the wet sidewalk, wearing my rain boots, expecting someone might ask where I was headed. I bought a steno pad and a watch battery. The store windows fogged up. Rain in April is a kind of promise, and it costs nothing. I carried a bag of books to the cafe and ordered tea. I like a place that's lit by lamps. I like a place where you can hear people talk about small things, like the difference between azure and cerulean, or the price of tulips. It's going down. I watched someone who could be my sister walk in, shaking the rain from her hair. I thought, even now, florists are filling their coolers with tulips. $5 a bundle. All over the city, there are sisters. Any one of them could be mine.
Our next student says her contest experiences allow her to share her love for words and language in many different settings, and she is beyond grateful for this opportunity. Sierra states, "The art of intertwining artistic expression with communication is a delicate one. It's a wonderful feeling and a great learning opportunity." This is today's last recitation from Sierra Shepherd.
The Empty Dance Shoes by Cornelius Eady. My friends, as it has been proven in the laboratory, an empty pair of dance shoes will sit on the floor like a wart until given a reason to move. Those of us who study inertia, those of us covered with wild hair and sleep, can state this without fear. The energy in a pair of shoes at rest is about the same as that of a clown knocked flat by a sandbag. This you can tell your friends with certainty. A clown flat on his back is a lot like an empty pair of dancing shoes. An empty pair of dancing shoes is also a lot like a leaf pressed in a book. And now you know a simple truth. A leaf pressed in, say, the Colossus by Sylvia Plath is no different from an empty pair of dance shoes. Even if the shoes are in the middle of the Stardust Ballroom with all the lights on and hot music shakes the windows up and down the block, this is the secret of inertia. The shoes run on their own sense of the world. They are in sympathy with the rock the kid skips over the lake after it settles in the mud. Not with the ripples, but with the rock. A practical and personal application of inertia can be found in the question, whose turn is it to take out the garbage? An empty pair of dance shoes is a lot like the answer to this question, as well as book-length poems set in the Midwest. To sum up, an empty pair of dance shoes is a lot like the sand that the 98-pound weakling brushes from his cheeks as the bully tows away his girlfriend. Later, when he spies the coupon at the back of the comic book, he is about to act upon a different set of scientific principles. He is ready to dance.
I hope every teacher in the room was thinking, okay, that's an allusion lesson, a simile lesson, a descriptive language lesson. I was. One of the added benefits of being a part of a contest like this is the development of an acute awareness of poetry in our everyday lives. For instance, did you notice about 3/4 of the way through the latest James Bond movie, Skyfall, Judi Dench's character punctuates her speech to the Parliament Committee by using some lines from a Tennyson poem, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. I'm sure our next presenter, Alyssa, is like many of the students in my class after they've had a Poetry Out Loud experience, and that is they notice poetry allusions in pop culture more astutely now, having been a part of this activity. Here is Alyssa Moncure with her third poem.
Testimonial by Rita Dove. Back when the earth was new and heaven just a whisper. Back when the names of things hadn't had time to stick. Back when the smallest breezes melted summer into autumn. When all the poplars quivered sweetly in rank and file. The world called and I answered. Each glance ignited to a gaze. I caught my breath and called that life. Swooned between spoonfuls of lemon sorbet. I was pirouette and flourish. I was filigree and flame. How could I count my blessings when I didn't know their names? Back when everything was still to come, luck leaked out everywhere. I gave my promise to the world, and the world followed me here.
The national finals judging pool is a who's who of the artistic community. Last year, guest judges presiding over the final rounds of competition included well-known poets and authors, performers, and playwrights. Caroline Kennedy, daughter of John F. Kennedy and advocate for poetry, judged in the first year, and Garrison Keillor from National Public Radio's Prairie Home Companion serves as a finals judge almost every year. Allie is ready with her third poem, and I know she joins the other students in the excitement of knowing that one of these young people will represent our state at the national contest last month. I got to go in 2008, and it's my understanding that there are at least 3 other teachers that got to accompany students, and I think we can all tell you that it really is a remarkable time. With her final poem, here is Allie Walker.
I am offering this poem by Jimmy Santiago Baca. I am offering this poem to you, since I have nothing else to give. Keep it like a warm coat when winter comes to cover you, or like a pair of thick socks the cold cannot bite through. I love you. I have nothing else to give. So it is a pot full of yellow corn to warm your belly in winter. It is a scarf for your head to wear over your hair to tie up around your face. I love you. Keep it. Treasure this as you would if you were lost, needing direction. In the wilderness life becomes when mature, and in the corner of your drawer, tucked away like a cabin or hogan, and dense trees come knocking, and I will answer. Give you directions and let you warm yourself by this fire. Rest by this fire and make you feel safe. I love you. It is all I have to give, and all anyone needs to live. And to go on living inside when the world outside no longer cares if you live or die. Remember, I love you.
If you're enjoying the performances today, and would like to see more, poetryoutloud.org is a wonderful site to see video and hear audio examples of outstanding performances. I'm sure Andrea, our next student, has spent many hours shopping on the Poetry Out Loud website. There are teachers' guides, video examples, materials for poetry lovers, not just teachers and students. You may even find a few you think you need to memorize. Andrea is here with her third poem. This is Andrea Hall.
Her Kind by Anne Sexton. I have gone out, a possessed witch, haunting the black air, braver at night, dreaming evil. I have done my hitch. Over the plain houses, light by light. Lonely thing, 12-fingered, out of mind. A woman like that is not a woman, quite. I have been her kind. I have found the warm caves in the woods, filled them with skillets, carvings, shelves, closets, silks, innumerable goods. Fixed the suppers for the worms and the elves, whining, rearranging the disaligned. A woman like that is misunderstood. I have been her kind. I have ridden in your cart, driver, waved my nude arms at villages going by, learning the last bright root survivor, where your flames still bite my thigh, and my ribs crack where your wheels wind. A woman like that is not ashamed to die. I have been her kind. Thank you.
In her freshman year, our next performer was given a poetry book, even though she hadn't really enjoyed poetry much by then. Callie says she flipped through the pages until she found Takes Talent by Don Marquis, written from the unique perspective of an especially observant cockroach. She says the honesty of that poem sparked her interest in the art form. I'd say she's probably hooked now. With her final poem, this is Callie Lewis.
Through a Glass Eye, Lightly, by Carolyn Kaiser. In the laboratory waiting room, containing one television actor with a teary face trying a contact lens, two muscular victims of industrial accidents, several vain women, I was one of them, came Deborah, 4, to pick up her glass eye. It was a long day, Deborah, waiting for the blood vessels painted on her iris to dry. Her mother said that, holding Deborah when she was born. First, I inspected her from toes to navel, then stopped at her head. We wondered why the inspection hadn't gone the other way. Looking into her eye was like looking into a volcano. Her vacant pupil went whirling down to the foundation of the world. When she was 3 months old, they took it out. She giggled when she went under the anesthetic. 45 minutes later, she came back happy. The gas wore off. She found the hole in her face. You know, it never bled. Stayed happy, even when I went to pieces. She's 5 in June. Deborah, you get right down from there, or I'll have to slap. Laughing, Deborah climbed into the lap of one vain lady who had been discontented with her own beauty. Now she held on to Deborah, looked her steadily in the empty eye.
I knew there'd be a poem that'd make me want to cry today. I was worried about that. Whew. Gotta go back and read a lot of these, don't we? You know, April is National Poetry Month. And one way you can celebrate, there are lots of ways you can celebrate National Poetry Month, but one way you can celebrate is a Poem in Your Pocket Day on April 18th. And the idea is simple. You select a poem you love and you carry it in your pocket all day. And you share it with coworkers, friends, family members, and maybe the students from today's contest will actually try to proliferate that idea. Patricia could consider doing that in her school. The idea is that you provide this poem out there for the world to experience it. And if you want some more ideas about that poem or a list of poems that are permissible to be reproduced, you could even hand copies of that poem to people. You can find that at poets.org, which is the website of the the Academy of American Poets. So with your third and final recitation, here's Patricia Flanagan.
Ego by Denise Duhamel. I just didn't get it. Even with the teacher holding an orange, the earth, in one hand, and a lemon, the moon, in the other. Her favorite student, the sun, standing behind her with a flashlight. I just couldn't grasp it. This whole citrus universe, these bumpy planets revolving so slowly no one could even see themselves moving. I used to think if I could only concentrate hard enough, I could be the one person to feel what no one else could. Sense a small tug from the ground, a sky shift, the earth changing gears. Even though I was only one mini speck on a speck. Even though I was merely a pinprick in one goosebump on the orange, I was sure then I was the most specially perceptive, perceptively sensitive. I was sure then my mother was the only mother to snap, "The world doesn't revolve around you." The earth was fragile and mostly water, just the way the orange was mostly water if you peeled it. Just the way I was mostly water if you peeled me. Looking back on that third grade science demonstration, I can understand why some people gave up on fame or religion or cures. Especially people who have an understanding of the excruciating crawl of the world, who have a well-developed sense of spatial reasoning and the tininess that it is to be one of us. But not me. Even now I wouldn't mind being God, the force who spins the planets the way I spin a globe, a basketball, a yo-yo. I wouldn't mind being that teacher who chooses the fruit, or that favorite kid who gives the moon its glow.
Our next performer is dedicated to the performing arts in his school. This past fall found him playing the role of the dentist in Little Shop of Horrors, and he just completed a run as Jeff Douglas in Brigadoon. His theater director, Mr. Schulte, is in attendance today, and Tom has promised to remember breath control, diction, and honesty to the author. I think the poets of today's works would be delighted to know such committed young people embraced their poems so honestly. With his last recitation, Thomas Fields.
Adam's Curse by William Butler Yeats. We sat together at one summer's end, that beautiful, mild woman, your close friend, and you and I, and talked of poetry. I said, a line will take us hours, maybe. Yet if it does not seem a moment's thought, our stitching and unstitching has been naught. Better go down upon your marrow bones and scrub a kitchen pavement, or break stones like an old pauper in all kinds of weather. For to articulate sweet sounds together is to work harder than all these, and yet be thought an idler by the noisy set of bankers, schoolmasters, and clergymen the martyrs call the world. And thereupon, that beautiful, mild woman, for whose sake there's many a one shall find out all heartache on finding that her voice is sweet and low, replied, to be born woman is to know, although they do not talk of it at school, that we must labor to be beautiful. I said it's certain there is no fine thing since Adam's fall but needs much laboring. There have been lovers who thought love should be so much compounded of high courtesy that they would sigh and quote with learned looks precedents out of beautiful old books. Yet now it seems an idle trade enough. We sat grown quiet at the name of love. We saw the last embers of daylight die, and in the trembling blue-green of the sky, a moon, worn, as if it had been a shell, washed by time's waters as they rose and fell about the stars, and broke in days and years. I had a thought for no one's but your ears, that you were beautiful, and that I strove to love you in the old highway of love, that it had all seemed happy, and yet we'd grown as weary-hearted as that hollow moon.
Missouri is well represented on the Poetry Out Loud website. In fact, if Essence, our next performer, was looking at poetryoutloud.org last Sunday, she would have seen that Missouri's first poet laureate was the poet of the day. I was looking on Sunday, and he was. Walter Bergen was the featured poet last Sunday. His poem, Icebound, is in the anthology, and a good number of other Missourians, either born here or educated here, are also within the anthology, so you should check it out if you haven't yet. With her third performance, Essence Imani.
I am learning to abandon the world by Linda Paston. I am learning to abandon the world before it can abandon me. Already I have given up the moon and snow, closing my shades against the claims of white. And the world has taken my father, my friends, I have given up melodic lines of heels moving to a flat, tuneless landscape. And every night, I give my body up limb by limb, working upwards across bone towards the heart. But morning comes with small reprieves of coffee and bird song. A tree outside the window, which was simply shadow moments ago, takes back its branches twig by leafy twig. And as I take my body back, the sun lays its warm muzzle on my lap, as if to make amends.
One of my favorite poets and a strong advocate for this endeavor, former U.S. Poet Laureate Billy Collins, said, "I'm absolutely in favor of having my students memorize poetry. Once they have the poem internalized, it's a gift. If it gets in there young, it stays." I imagine Berkeley, our last performer, would agree. She says, "When I memorize a poem, it becomes part of me, and it feels as though the words have always been thoughts inside, waiting to burst out." Here is the third recitation and the final poem of our contest, Berkeley Going.
Uphill by Christina Rossetti. Does the road wind uphill all the way? Yes, to the very end. Will the day's journey take the whole long day? From morn to night, my friend. But is there for the night a resting place? A roof for when the slow, dark hours begin? May not the darkness hide it from my face? You cannot miss that inn. Shall I meet other wayfarers at night? Those who have gone before. Then must I knock or call when just in sight? They will not keep you standing at that door. Shall I find comfort, travel sore and weak? Of labor you shall find the sum. Will there be beds for me and all who seek? Yea, beds for all who come.
Well, here we are. The scores are tabulated and we're back. Earlier I said that we would be reminded about learning and the love of learning and why they matter. And I think these young people have definitely demonstrated that today. At occasions like this, I always feel like it's not enough to just give an award and announce a runner-up and announce a winner and go to lunch and call that done. And so I wanted to take just a moment to tell the students today what you taught me. And I'm not your judge. It didn't have anything to do with my impressions, the outcome of today. But I know that each and every one of you taught each and every one of us that something matters today. With Sarah, I was taught that thoughtfulness matters. With Sierra, humor matters. With Alyssa, that voice matters. With Allie, insight matters. With Andrea, tenderness matters. With Callie, genuineness matters. With Patricia, dramatization matters. With Thomas, conversationality matters. With Essence, silence matters. With Berkeley, authenticity matters. I appreciate what each of you taught me about what matters, about language and performance and poetry today. At this point, I want to welcome Nola Ruth with the Missouri Arts Council and Georgianne Nixon, the First Lady of the State of Missouri, to present our awards.
A big moment. The runner-up for this year's statewide competition is Thomas Field. This year's winner, Essence Amani.
Speeches in my lifetime, so I'll just mimic some things. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank God, because without Him, none of us would be here. And also my parents, because, and the rest of my family, because they are my #1 supporters. And without them, I don't think I could make it this far and have this much confidence. And also with my school, because I love my school so much. Everyone, even if I don't know them very well, they all support me, and they're all excited for me and rooting for me. So I know they'll be very happy to know about this. And thank you so much for everything.